Hey everyone. Before the video started, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Wizard of the Coast team, Matt Smith specifically for this video. I was really excited to sit down with Matt and talk with Matt for almost an hour about the creation process from Wizards of the Coast side of Perceptor. We go through a lot of the early stages all the way to the ending and how everything kind of came to be, and even for me, who was a part of the process the whole time, through emails and through phone calls and stuff like that, it was very interesting to see and hear their side of it and hear Matt's side of it, and it was a really fun conversation for us to be had. So this podcast is all about the creation of Perceptor and Matt's help in that and aid in that, and the rest of the Wizards team also aiding in that. And I just wanted to give one more thank you to Matt for sitting down with me, and for the Wizards of the Coast team for being there through the process and making it a very easy process for me all the way through. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See ya.
Back to the Traveling Transformer. Today I am joined by special guest Matt Smith. How you doing today, Matt?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks. I'm really happy to talk to you. I'm get jealous of all those players out there that get to be on the traveling.
Yeah, I mean this is episode 9, but I've had a couple with two different players and stuff like that or here and there, but what's cool about this one is that I had to change my rundown a little bit because you aren't necessarily a player for the game, you are a creator for the game. So I had to create a creator profile to run through with you.
Yeah, but
So normally I always start my shows with giving you the floor and letting you run through kind of like a bit of your background. And I know you were just on Tech Talk a couple weeks ago talking about that, so you don't have to go crazy in depth if you don't want to. But just for all the listeners, give your creator profile and how you came to be a part of the Transformers TCG team.
sure, yeah, that's no problem. I've been a really serious trading card game player for a long time. They're kind of like my first or second favorite hobby since I was 14 or so. Um, even before then, I liked trading card games, but I wasn't very good at them, so they weren't as big of an impact until I started playing them and getting some amount of success. And it was kind of a big deal when I was young because you're young, like don't know what's going on in the world sometimes, and you're looking for any opportunity to find things that make sense. So for me, like trading card games, once I figured out how they worked, something like that, there's something that could make sense to me. Later on, when I was an adult in my early 20s, I'm from Iowa, and at that time I was just kind of like, oh, I need to do something, and decided that I was going to come out to the Seattle area, do my best to start working on Magic. It's 2011. I started at Wizards, Magic design. I started working in a WPN program, signing up stores and stuff like that, and organized play. And I've gone through a bunch of different hats since then. Eventually, at some point, there had a new CEO, and he was soliciting some ideas because he thought we should try another card game. It had been a little while since Kaijudo ended, and I had recently given a presentation about how I thought that Transformers would make an interesting card game that would meet a lot of. There's a very similar kind of fan base as card games have. I'm a Transformers fan. I collect figures and things like that, and it also is something that doesn't really clash with Magic. There's a different audience. So I met with some people, and due to some experience I had working on Judo and Duel Masters, a little bit on Duel Masters, not much. But I just got brought in because I was willing to wear a lot of different hats in what was going to be a really small team at first.
Yeah, so you're that guy that just, is like the mannequin hat that just, like, here's the cowboy hat and here's the here's the jungle hat. Like, is that you?
Kind of. Like, part of it is like I just kind of let my passion guide the way. So when you feel like that, you're willing to do a lot, that maybe you're willing to go further and get good results because you're fueled by something else. So like, I was able to card designs, make system designs, figure out all the creative that we were working with, like all these different things, and it didn't exhaust me or anything like that because I was energized by the project. So that was, I think, a really valuable asset for the business side, and it was of them to kind of utilize that.
Yeah, I mean, hard work is hard to find, right? So, like, whenever you find someone like that, that's always passionate. You don't want to lose that. So, I can totally respect that. Well, that's
working on it.
What was that? Sorry.
I've just been working on the game since then, along with some other things that I've been working on.
Yeah, which is ironic because that's why we're here today, right, Matt? We're here to talk something that was very exciting for me, and I'm hoping it was just as exciting for you. But I want to talk about Perceptor because it was the first card in the game that was created by a player, and I kind of wanted to bring you on, and I wanted to do this back in like late March, early April, but the set got pressed back and all that crap happened. So like we waited, and that was good. So it was fine. We had to see more of it. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. But I really want to go back to those like first few meetings that we had and just discuss like how you felt about the process and like what the process was like on your end. So the early creation, as I'm calling it, that first meeting we had, which was like in mid-December, a couple weeks after EI, it was very interesting for me because like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really know what all the rules were going to be and this or that. And we had this really fun meeting with, you and a couple others. And one of my biggest takeaways from that, and I don't know if you've listened to like the tech talk from like February when I talked about this, but like, you were always the guy that got it. Like, you knew what I wanted, and you were just like, all right, Dan wants to play a good card. and that was...
I mean,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can see why, that I've... Let me put this into any sense. That's kind of like, in some ways, my role on the team is like, I am the person... in some ways most like the rest of you guys. I've played, competitively. The rest of the guys aren't so competitive. They're more on the creative and design end, right? They're trying to focus on the fun and a lot of stuff like that.
Right.
I use these cards and I use them in ways that are important to me and not flippant. And so you and I align in a lot of ways. So I feel like certainly, whenever you had a question or suggestion or you were uneasy about anything, I felt like I had a decent read on it. Oh, not hearing you, Dan.
So I remember Drew going through these line of like things, and you're like, Dan, do you just want a good card? Like it was literally just that simple little subtle thing that was just like, it stuck with me through the whole process. And it wasn't the only time you had said something like that. So it was just like, to me, you were so vital to understanding like what I wanted. So I want to start here for the first time and say thank you for that, because I'm sure I'll say it a couple more times, but definitely thank you for understanding like that side and like what I wanted out of the card.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my perspective, this is essentially a trophy for you, but it's a trophy with some sort of utility. Right. And if in some way I just put myself in your shoes, and it's like, but what I would be looking for and what you were looking for is something that you confidently use and not feel like you had to like give up any sort of play advantage, or not necessarily advantage, but you didn't have to like handicap yourself in order to use this thing. If we want it to align and be parallel, it's like both can use it and it makes sense to use it.
I agree.
The other thing is that people weren't entirely sure how deep you were into like the fandom of Transformers. And from my perspective, in my discussions with you in the past and, just at events, we're more of a card game player first. So I thought that, it would be better to emphasize that aspect.
Yeah, and that's, that was how you presented to me how we could build the card. You said very much like, all right, Dan, what would you like to do? And then we'll go with that, and then we'll work backwards. Which was like very helpful for me for sure, because like without that part, like I don't know that I could have narrowed down a character in the lore that I would have enjoyed. Whereas I could definitely narrow down something that I could get behind when it came to what was on the text of said character. So that was definitely like invaluable to the process for sure.
And I mean, I think it went pretty smoothly. Like we had to feel each other out. We had to try to. There was testing involved. There were edits, stuff like that. But overall, I thought it went pretty well. And I think that part of that is just you were pretty clear about what you were interested in, and I think that also what you were interested in is something that we were kind of happy to bring into the game. So
yeah,
that made things smoother as well.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Fact or Fiction. I had brought a couple different cards to you guys. One of them was Counterspell, which there's so many versions of that card, and one was Demonic Tutor, and really there's so many versions of that card also in Magic the Gathering. And then the last one that I brought was Fact or Fiction, which is inevitably what Perceptor is based off of. What was it like? Like, how excited were you to get to explore that option in the game in the creation process?
Yeah. Well, first I think it was Fact or Fiction / Gifts Ungiven, right? That was
yeah. It was definitely on those lines.
Well, I love both cards, though. I think I might like Gifts a little bit more.
I'm sure everyone does.
Yeah, so when you brought those things up, right, that told us a great deal, or at least myself a great deal of what it was you were kind of looking for. You were looking for opportunities to have agency in the game, right, and to be able to use your ability to be strong at the game, right? You just won the Energon Invitational. Clearly, you were top, arguably the best player at the time, right? So, you want to use that when you're playing the game, and why have it if you're not going to use it? So that became very clear. We had to kind of let you know early that it's like things like a tutor were things that we were kind of avoiding in the game.
Yep.
At this point. Largely due to mechanical things, just kind of quality of life stuff, but also kind of what ends up happening with those sorts of cards.
Right.
Games, we just be careful. But obviously, it was an interesting thing to think about, though. So we kind of sold on the Fact or Fiction thing as best aspect because it's basically setting up in the game, and it's making a moment in time where it's like which one of us is better, and sometimes it's even, sometimes it's even, sometimes there's not much of a choice. Oftentimes you're just creating the scenario within the game where you're just doing kind of like a skill check. That's what's fun about that aspect. It can be frustrating for some people on the other side of the table, but yeah, that's what we thought would be cool. And in a game that doesn't really have instance, right? Like we have the card actions.
Yeah.
Those are things that aren't reactive. They're more premeditated.
Right.
So a game without reaction, the reaction has to happen over a longer course, or like you have to think more ahead, utilizing the actions you plan to do in later turns, and like that's how you can take an opportunity to outplay your opponent, is looking really far ahead and doing something when they don't expect it. This is just creating a period in the game right away where it's like you might an advantage because you know more about this particular game or like what's important during the match to your opponent.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we were super excited about that because it was like it sort of mini game creates that opportunity in a way that is difficult to kind of manufacture with a single card otherwise. That was really awesome, and we were going to put this effect on a bot. We gave you the opportunity to do a battle card if you felt strongly about that, but using a bot card is just a lot more fun in my opinion, and also just meets the needs better. So that means that we're also going to make this ability repeatable, likely, which gives you kind of the opportunity to make those situations come up over and over again.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, which, by the way, like, I remember going into that, I didn't even know I could make a battle card. So, like, that was actually something that I had learned along the way, which was intriguing.
Yeah, but that just is a testament to, it's like, is that something you'd really want to do?
Right.
There's one good thing about making a battle card is it would be the least restrictive in terms of finding opportunities to play it in your decks from then on, right? Like,
right.
Something that you could make sure essentially was in every deck you ever played from then on.
Yeah, but, it's something. It's always there.
The cost to play it is a lot smaller.
Right.
But it also means that it's not going to come up as often, and you might not draw it or what have you.
Well, it's funny because, like, we talk about cost, and the ground floor version of Perceptor, it might have been called like Autobot A. Like, it didn't have a name, it didn't have anything, it just had a text box on one side. So the intriguing thing to me was, like, in that early meeting, I had said to you guys, like, one of the things that I would like to accomplish is trying to make something that I felt was a premier part of the wave. And then, going into that, I didn't know that this was going to be the Wave 5 promo. I didn't know any of those things until that day also. But I feel like when you guys had presented the idea that Perceptor could be a Titan Master, that really opened my eyes. Like, oh, wow, this actually is a really unique situation. And it sounds great to try and take that leap. So what was it like for you guys to be able to build Perceptor as a Titan in a premier Titan set?
Oh yeah, I begin with we definitely didn't expect to make him a Titan Master, right? We expected whatever bot we were going to make more of like a standalone thing. It happened to go with the set, like that was probably going to be how it was distributed, but we didn't actually think about tying it mechanically early on.
Right.
But when that opportunity came up, and we were looking at, like, do we have the means to make this 2 cards that we give out, and we make it then tie in with the theme of the set. We thought that was pretty awesome, because it just means that one, it felt like something that it tied so well with the set in a way that I've never really seen in other games when this sort of card comes out. Yeah. Or when it does, it just takes like a year for the card to come out, right? Like,
right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was totally blown away how fast it was going to come.
Exactly. So the fact that we were able to execute on tying it into the set, had the opportunity to do that and to do it as quickly as we did, it felt like we just had like a giant high five. We're like, yes, this is going to be awesome.
I mean, I haven't had the chance to see you guys yet, but yes, there will be a high five. It'll be like a cowabunga from the Turtles. That's how I expect it.
Yeah. And also, like, other things, once you started bringing up the sort of mechanics you were interested in, as you mentioned, my perspective was that we would get close to what the card was going to be, and then we could start talking about characterization. I kind of just instantly gravitated towards Perceptor then. Some more options. Like, I went through and picked out everything that I thought could work.
Mm-hmm.
Time I was like, Perceptor is a microscope. He analyzes things, and he has like this really awesome short arc in IDW where he's just like an army taking out everything. So I was like, this guy would be perfect for here. Like, this would just be perfect. He's also one of my favorite Transformers.
Yeah, I remember when I got the email with the lures, and like he was like, he wasn't the first on the list. There was a couple others. There was like a Inferno, and I can't remember the other bot. I can't remember exactly what that other bot was, but I remember reading them, and then like when I got to Perceptor and I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's perfect.
Yeah, we felt pretty good at that. At the time, I was set on it being either Perceptor or Inferno. I also have to admit that my vision got a little tunnel vision as we started getting there, and I just thought that Perceptor would fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It worked out.
I was gonna push. It worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out. And like the cool thing was about him being a Titan is you were talking about that flexibility with the battle card. The moment he was decided to be a Titan, and now with the ability to play heads, you actually now got a lot of leeway in your star cost. So like he can fit in more things, which it really felt exactly what I wanted, and it was so important. Like once we got to like the certain numbers, because I know we were talking, there was a point in time where he was 12 stars, there was a point in time where he was 7 stars, like he was all over the board. And I felt like when we landed at 8 stars, and then the idea that you can only go up to 12, like that was really important to me, because it feels that it gives everybody that ability to go, okay, I'm going to play with a 1-star head, I'm going to play with a 2-star head, I'm going to play with a 3-star head, I'm going to play with a 4-star head. So it fits into the mold of like, okay, I wanted something that was good and respected the set, and on top of that had flexibility, like Flame War was the example I had given in one of those early meetings. And I believe Perceptor does do all those things pretty well, so like I couldn't be more ecstatic about how it ended.
Yeah, I'd be hard on that. There were definitely a lot of initial designs that were heavier because people were kind of focusing on the aspect of like this should be the focus of a deck.
Right.
And while that can be true, and there's a lot of merit to that, we discussed making this more like a utility thing in that, like Flame War or something that can fit into more decks. I don't want you to be in a situation where you could only ever play it in a 2-wide deck or something.
Right, right.
I pushed pretty hard. I actually wanted it to be 7 for a while, but based on just kind of our knowledge concerns, not necessarily with what was on his stats and everything, but just the existence of the other bodies as well, we just felt like maybe 7, we couldn't do another 7 right now.
Yeah.
So then we scaled things to 8. So that then, he could cost as low as 9, and he can cost as much as 12.
Yeah.
That modularity should hopefully go a long way towards making sure he fits in a lot of decks.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very early on, but you're already starting to see it now with the different head combinations and everything like that. So it definitely was. I think it was the perfect fit. I mean, 7 would have been nice. I'm not going to complain about 7, obviously, but I'm happy with 8.
Yeah.
Now, even I might do this a little bit, but like, Convex came in very, very close to the ending procedure, and to me, he's interesting enough, and he definitely presents, a fashion to certain bodies that, maybe we haven't really figured out or anything like that yet. But where do you see Convex like fitting in Titan Master's attack?
Well, first, kind of from the design side of this, he was a head that the design of a head with Safeguard was one that we had worked on for quite a while in the set. We ultimately pushed it out just because we preferred the roster that we ended up with.
Mm-hmm.
That opportunity to do another one, we were like, oh well, the next one is this one because it's really the next one on the list.
Right.
And the only other options we were really considering were maybe like a smaller focus amount. Like Emissary has focus 2, and because he has focus 2 and cost 4, I didn't really want to go that route because it just felt like it was going to be not as exciting. So Safeguard is an ability that, when it works, can be very powerful.
I agree.
It can be powerful on a head. The thing is, it doesn't necessarily work. People prepare for it. So it's one of those things where it's like we wanted to have a cool card. We wanted the card that had your name on it to be the more interesting ones out of all those heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
We chose that one, even though he doesn't necessarily fit with Perceptor. there's also that modularity. Like, if you end up making a deck with some other Titan Masters and you decide you don't want Perceptor, but for whatever reason Convex fits, you still have an opportunity to play one of the cards you made, right?
Yeah.
Now, that said, there's a lot of kind of like burn heavy stuff going on right now in the meta that is kind of invalidating him. I would say that he is still a little bit interesting with his stats, being a 4/4.
Yeah, he's a beat stick.
Looking more so for a meta that is, let's say we ever get to a point where the pump spells are just kind of outpacing the burn spells, right, in terms of the rate.
Right.
Obviously, he's powerful there. The other thing is he kind of can exist as a deterrent in that on your first turn, or on the opponent's first turn, if they're going first, they're not going to be able to, or has Convex on them,
Mm-hmm.
so they're not going to attack him either, probably, unless they're attacking him with something like Flame War. He's a deterrent from being attacked on that, and then if you had the first turn, then clearly you can not put him out first, so it's kind of like a safety thing. Like, obviously, stealth can work in that way too,
Right.
But it can work in that way where it's like a safety thing that deters the very early turn. People don't have the burn actions, the ability to do something like that. But then he also is just it's like you need to have the answer, otherwise you're just going to get a pretty good advantage. So
Yeah.
it's a threat in that way. So it's right now in the current meta, I would say it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I've already been exploring a little bit with Safeguard with Optimus Prime, Legendary Warrior, and like they're not with Convex because I think it just makes them a little bit too expensive. But the Safeguard, it's like you said, like if you can put someone in that lock, and I've also seen like Fortress Maximix decks do this as well, where they're able to Cerebos and continuously spam the lock with the Safeguard. It's actually really powerful if they can't get around it. So like, I do think the meta does have a huge influx of direct damage, so it's definitely not as powerful now, but it's one of those things that, well, if we get to another point, then it's always there, so that's the best part about it.
It's something you got to kind of keep track of.
Right.
In like those decks that are kind of utilizing repair, like I could see it being interesting there. I would probably just use the Medic's Protective Field instead, but
yeah,
really depends. I could see the time. Like there could be a time where there's a beat sticks going on, right? And then there's somebody can only afford to play 3 burn actions in their deck, and like.
I mean, yeah, and I've already seen decks like that, so I mean, it's definitely possible that he has a little more intrigue to him for sure, but
we're also kind of worried about him because when we had worked on set in the earliest days, and when Safeguard had existed, I don't remember if it existed exactly in the stats that Convex does. I think we ended up changing a little bit based on the information we had, but. There was also, like, I think originally Fortress Maximus was going to use all of the head's abilities at once.
Yeah,
but we couldn't.
I was led to believe that, so yes.
So that would have been a really potentially scary thing.
Oh yes. Yes.
Because, like, for example, if they go first, don't get to burn, so like getting to do the 3 damage to the Fortress Maximus could be a really big deal.
Oh yeah.
On that very first time, and then Safeguard happens again, and then it happens again. Like it's asking for a lot of answers.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Now the truth is that would have probably not even been a problem, because why would you do that when you could just do the bold 3 the whole time anyway?
Yeah, that's probably true. You're not wrong. But it would have been a more intriguing defensive way to play it. I mean, like the list I've seen so far is like a defensive Cerebro shell that's been very intriguing with the medic fields that you were saying, and it's like you kind of put yourself in that Safeguard lock. So like if you just had Convex to start, it would have been really interesting to see what that would have looked like, and if it gave you enough time to take that deck to another level. So it would have been interesting. But I totally understand why it's not a thing.
Yeah. I had many decks that were it's like attacking for 18 and burning all your guys for 2, like on the first turn. Right?
Seems okay. It seems okay.
And also, and it wasn't merely a balance thing either, because we might have been able to scale some things back. It was also just a rules nightmare to try to get them all to work.
Oh, that's fair.
That's why that didn't end up happening.
That's fair. Well, so you just use that magic word of rules, okay? And I have gotten this question so many times in the last 3 months. So I need you to please do me this guidance and clarify to me exactly what all of the piles can consist of.
Oh, yeah. And so you make 2 piles, right?
Yep.
And a given pile can have between 0 and 4 cards.
Wow. Magic.
4 cards. You can do this pile has 0, this one has 4. Do 1 and 3, 2 and 2. And obviously, then the reverse happens. And
that's it. Yes. Yeah. So all right. So that you hear it here. All right. Matt Smith has said it on record. 0 is a pile. All right. Thank you. I was just I had to get it in there. Because it is funny because I just remember early on when we were like messing around with the set and I was playing with the guys, my friends from Malaysia, and like someone was playing Perceptor. It was not me, and they're like flip, and I'm like 0-4. They're like, you can't do that. I'm like, dude, I made the card. Like, yes, you can. like what? Like I made the card. I would know. Like, come on, man. But yeah, so thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead.
So when we were designing the Fact or Fiction ability, there were a few different iterations that
yes. Yeah, originally, like, the cards were face down and face up, and that was, like, both directions. Like, I had seen face up, you had seen face down. There was parts where, like, I got to choose the piles to present to you. It was all over the place.
There were a lot of different ways. Like, at first we started out with 3 cards, then we tried to put it up to 4. I think we might have tried 5 at one point.
Oh, God.
Yep. Like Ken was mentioning, one thing that we've been doing Magic, and so the designers are somewhat interested in, is an effect like this, except for the person who's setting the piles sets one of them face down without the controlling player knowing what it is. I pushed pretty hard against that because for a player like Dan, or the sort of player that we were trying to satisfy with this card, and the goal we were trying to satisfy, the correct way of doing that is our opponent plays a pile that's face down, and then you have one, and then they do one that's face up. Is you just look at the ones that are face up, decide if you want a blind draw. Like, essentially, the face down ones, not that much of a mind game. They're more of you only choose them when you would just rather draw 2 cards off the top of your deck.
Right.
And you're essentially just pretending that that's what they are. And then, so it's not as dramatic as like people might think, or as it might be for a lower level player. Are thinking about it the appropriately strategic way. Like, it actually takes out a lot of the drama. So I was pushing really hard for them to both be face up.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there was probably a good week or so in the testing process that it was face down, and I was not happy about it. And I agree with everything you said, because you're right. At the end of the day, you're just okay, these 2 cards are that, or do I just take the blind? Because obviously there's play states where there's game state where you're gonna know okay, those cards don't help me. I have to just take the blind draw, and that's fine. But to me, all the information to be had was just more important. So that's why I was very, very in favor of the face up.
Yeah, I don't actually recall you disparaging
it. It may have been a conversation between Ken and I, which Ken, okay. I respect Ken a lot, and we had some interesting emails for sure. So.
He's a great designer, but he's a different kind of. So this is different aspect of.
Yeah, like I said, there was a point in time where like I was mainly talking with Ken and Scott through like a lot of the testing process. So like I was getting a lot of feedback from them, and there was like I said, it was all sorts of different, like at this point, like we said, like it was anywhere between 7 and 12 stars. So like I had heard every possibility at one point. So yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot going on. I think we all were able to kind of hone in on the message of, just making this a solid card, that could be used in a lot of different ways, and it wasn't asking too much of the person, of the deck it was put in. Other thing is, one little aspect that we might not have mentioned, or maybe you haven't thought of, is we wanted to be extremely careful because having to ban this card would have been a nightmare.
Yes.
Think about like that, that's kind of like a guiding light when we're like going through it. We're like, okay, well, it's like there's a tension of like wanting to make it very good, but wanting to make it safe.
Right.
It probably would have been like the saddest thing ever, like to be in a meeting to be like, I'm not sure we can let this card be legal anymore.
Yeah, like if I were to get that email from most likely Drew, I would have been like, man, that's sad.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. And as we are, I don't really I think we're good. I feel good. I like to play the card. I think the card is strong, and but I'm not worried about its place.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I guess something that like I was intrigued by, if Drew talked about it recently on Transforming Your Game, which shout out to those guys. They asked the question about Perceptor that like made me want to do this interview even more. But they were saying, they were talking about Perceptor and some of those creation things. But what I want to know is he pointed out that you guys have been monitoring plays and players and games through the webcams and all those things. How do you feel so far about Perceptor and his presentation in Titan Master's Attack?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we definitely try to keep up with this sort of stuff. I think you can understand it's been a lot harder lately.
Oh yes.
I probably don't have the sort of full grasp that I would normally have on this situation, but from what I'm seeing, it's mostly what I kind of came to expect, where it's like it's a solid card, like it's just being played as a solid card in terms of like its stats. It fills this role of where it can give you card flow. Then it's also just like an occasional threat, where it's like you need to do something about how big he's going to get eventually. Like you can't just play it super slow. Right? Like one of the things that I think I remember talking about Ken and Scott, where I was like, this card will turn into a card where if we get to a meta where there's like do nothing decks, or decks that are just going to try to go super long, like this card will eventually win the game.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what we want it to be. Due to how fast the game is most of the time, it's more about kind of whatever value you get out of it in the earlier games. And like it's like if you get to a situation where his attack is on or above curve for that slot, otherwise when you start using him, then that's great. But big dream of it is something that doesn't happen in the majority of games.
Yeah, I mean, even I, at this point, I think I've had like 11 cards under him at one point, and I think that's my so far my high score on him. But it's one of those. Ken he compared it to Nemesis very early on. Like some games you're gonna have 3 cards under Nemesis, and some games you're gonna have none. And I think that's like a perfect way to think about him. Is like some games you're gonna have 10, and some games you're gonna have 4. So like. With that mini game in itself, and with that randomness, and like I remember I was like pretty hurt when I had realized that Titans were body modes and not bot modes, because like, man, there goes my 3 of escape routes that were going to be in all of my decks. So like, I will be the first one to admit now that I'm actually completely understanding and happy that it's not that way, because I do believe it would create this repetitiveness in the game states, and now that we really only have showing off and the occasional Wave 1 card that I can't remember the name of right now. What was that? Yeah, that one. On the occasional rapid conversion, I believe that is a completely fair enough scheme for him, and also for even other Titans that I don't even know. Like, there might be some other Titans that aren't even abusing cards like showing off that they could be. So, I think that it's definitely the correct thing, and it definitely creates that randomness that you guys were very, very in favor of.
Yeah, and we when we were designing all these Titan Masters, it was with the expectation that those cards would not facilitate them.
Right.
There's the one secret action, right, that flips it and then moves the damage.
You mean it? Well, there's hit and run, right? Is that what you're? Is that? Yeah, because that's only body. That's only bots also.
Exactly. But if it could work with these guys, like, it would both move Perceptor back to his alt mode.
Oh yeah.
On his alt mode, he has the extra defense, right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm upset about it. All right, I'm upset about it. All right.
In addition to whatever the card draw.
Yeah, I'm upset about it. All right, it's fine. I mean, you could have. I get it though. I totally. The more and more I play with the card, I'm just like, there's those games where I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Like, and it's like you said, it had to be on that level of, we don't want to put this in a position where we ban a card, like, especially like something like this. Like you said, it's like, it'd be like you taking away my trophy, right? Like, it would be like, we don't want to ever have to put ourselves in that position. So I totally respect everything that we're at. Like, after playing with it, I'm like, I get it. Like, I totally get it.
But like I said, it's still a card that I like to play frequently. I haven't been able to play so much because I'm stuck in my house. And I don't even have any product. I think it's all at the office.
Oh, man.
I look forward to using this Perceptor outside of the playtest games I play.
Yeah, I agree. So before we go too far to wrap up, do you think we've pretty much already covered this, but like just to get like a good feeling, do you think that Perceptor fits well into Titan Master's attack?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so Perceptor as a Titan Master was in the set Titan's Return. The Titan Master's attack is like partially based on Titan's Return. It's like an amalgamation of Titan's Return and like the original stuff where that mechanic came out. So I was super happy to get him in there because he was on my list. When I do these things, oftentimes I set some cool things aside because I'm like, I have to have something to do in the future.
Right. Right.
Something exciting later on. Like, I can't just put every combiner to use in the first set.
Right.
I was really excited to put him out in that way, and like I said, he's in Titan's Return, so he already has kind of a place in the set, and I think that he himself, even like as the body, I can consider all sorts of different heads that would work well with him.
Oh yeah.
I can see tons of reasons. You could just go the numbers route and just pick like the plus health ones, right?
Yep.
Those are always good for sustaining him. I could see using stealth because just so that I can get my hits in with him and make sure that he's gonna make it to later on in the game where he gets bigger.
Yep.
I could put in the tough head. Absolutely, like if I want to play something that elongates the game, I could see using the one cost head that gets tough and playing a blue deck. I could absolutely see using that.
Yeah.
I like that he's asking you to consider different heads that are available.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I always like to close these out with my anything goes section, which is where I toss it to you, and if there's anything at all that you'd like to ask me, I would be happy to answer. So is there anything you'd like to ask, Matt?
Sure. First I want to ask if you've gotten Perceptor framed up yet?
So I don't yet. I was only able to get one copy from the LGS, and I want to make like a very specific type of frame where I have like one of each copy and then like a convex in the middle. And honestly, I was more or less hoping to get you guys on board with signing it also, so like I could have like this entirely signed thing, and like I want to get the guys from the team to sign it and everything like that. So like that's something that's definitely going to happen. It's definitely going to be a nice little trophy case, but with everything going on, I don't know if that's going to be able to happen.
Or at least not immediately, right?
Right. It'll be something that has to happen later.
It would definitely already have been done if it weren't for what.
Yeah.
If I were you, but you have a very good explanation, so it makes sense. I would have that sucker already on my wall.
Yeah, I just envisioned it something very specific that I can't have right now. So,
I can appreciate that. So this is kind of a little, maybe this is a rude question.
No,
but
never.
Do you find yourself sometimes feeling like you want to use one of the like Fangry or something instead of Perceptor?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's what I want.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And nothing against Fangry. He's just fine, but he's not Perceptor, so no. There's definitely some times where like I probably want to use Horrible over it, but you know, that's okay. Can't always be Perceptor.
Yeah. I mean, you'd get bored of him soon anyway, if that were the case.
Yeah, that's true. Like I've been really working on that Optimus Prime. So like whenever I'm playing Optimus, I'm not playing Perceptor. So there's like that pet project on the side where I'm like, all right, you just stay over here. It's okay.
That Optimus deck is great though. I was super excited to see you jump on that right away because I was going into it. I was like, all right, we're kind of just like moving the dial a little bit each time to be like, okay, repair can be a little bit better, it can be a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, like the very first test we ever had for the game, I think we had like probably repair cards that are twice as strong as they are now or something like that.
Yeah.
And somebody was playing them and they were just like, these are like the worst cards. Like these cards are ruining the game for me. Right? Like,
I believe it. I believe it.
So we pulled it way back, but we were happy. We've been inching forward a little bit, and I'm just happy to see, it's more of a pet deck maybe, but I'm sure it's a fun deck, and so it's gotten to that point. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say I've cracked the code on it yet for sure, but to me it's like it's so very fringe. Like it's so like I talked about this a lot. With Perceptor is that like my biggest worry is that a lot of the characters in the game end up either just below or just above, and I feel like that character, this Optimus Prime Legend, he literally is just like, to me he's just that line. He's literally the line where it's like some games he feels absolutely bonkers, and other games he feels way bad, and then it's like but it's like it literally, it's just like this, it really is a pet project. Like I keep going back to the wheel because I'm like, every single time I play with it, I learn a little bit more, and I'm just like, there's gotta be something here, and I just need to figure it out. And like I said, I definitely haven't cracked the code, but he's a character that when he was first revealed by you guys, like I wasn't too crazy about, but the moment I started playing and started really getting into him, I'm like, man, I really actually enjoy this guy. So hopefully we'll see.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's it for me right now.
All right. Well, definitely thank you for coming on and hanging out with me. I know life is hard and it's crazy, it's hectic, and you guys I can't imagine what your guys' schedule is. So like anytime that you guys can come and join me, it's always a fun time.
Absolutely. I'm certainly looking forward to speaking with you. I'm sorry that I got a little hung up on some things, but I was happy to do it.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's just the times, like it really is, like it's hard, and I can't, everyone's schedules are crazy. So it's, I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad we had this now, and it's just as exciting because now we have the set. Everyone, hopefully most of the players have their Perceptors in their hands, and this could give everyone a little bit more of a peek behind that curtain. All right, Matt, go ahead.
As an aside, when I talked to Vince and Scott, I thought I was going to be talking to you that day.
Yeah, I'm not a normal character on Tech Talk, so it's I'm
Exactly.
there every once in a while.
I was like, oh wait, Dan's not here.
It's okay. It's okay.
I mean, of course, I was happy to do that as well, but I felt I was like this is kind of weird timing, but oh well, we'll make it happen.
It's okay. It's all good. All right, sir. Definitely thank you once again.
Hey everyone, I wanted to say thank you for listening to the chat between me and Matt Smith. Once again, a huge thank you to Matt Smith for coming on and doing this with me. It was really fun for even me to hear the full WOTC side of the process in creating, my card Perceptor. The fact that this card is even in my hand is just like, it's awesome, it's unreal, it's unimaginable. And to hear that side and how it came to be, a little bit more in depth than even I knew before the interview, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of really just cool information that I think hopefully everyone else enjoyed and everyone else really liked. So once again, thank you to everyone at Wizards that helped create Perceptor and help make it a real thing. And lastly, I've decided that I wanted to start ending these videos on maybe a different note and leaving everybody with a quote for the day to kind of, just leave on a good note and something to think about and something different to try, right? So my quote today is from Jonathan Lockwood Huey, and it's, "Your greatest gift to your family and your friends is yourself. Your relaxed, happy, and fully present self." Have a good day, guys. See you later.